Good evening.
Excellent, excellent. Let's act as though this is a Friday evening and you don't have to go to work tomorrow. Good evening. And welcome to Tribeca Performing Arts Center and the second in our 2010 series that we call Lost Jazz Shrines. And for those of you who are new to this series, we've been doing this for 12 years now. And the whole idea behind this series is to celebrate venues which are no longer in existence, but which had their own significance during their time, and many of which fostered historic moments in the development of this music. And this year, we wanted to put a special twist on the series. Each year we celebrate either, we do 3 concerts and celebrate one venue, or we do 3 different venues. This year we wanted to celebrate 3 different venues which were musician run and operated during their time. And that's significant because it's an aspect of the music that's not talked about that much, but it's an aspect of the music where musicians have determined to take matters into their own hands. Either they were, for one reason or another, dissatisfied with the conditions under which they were forced to play at other folks' venues and decided to do something in their own image, or they wanted to create a space where they and their cohorts could perform freely without any kind of restrictions or whatever the case may be. And so last week we celebrated Rashid Ali and Ali's Ali, and next week we will celebrate the Jazz Cultural Theater and Barry Harris. And for this week we are celebrating what was, during the time of those 3 spaces, probably the oldest of those 3 spaces, and a forerunner, and that is Studio Rivby, and more specifically Mr. Sam Rivers. And you know, last week a gentleman in the audience during the Q&A portion, and we do try to allow enough time for questions from the audience if you wish, a gentleman made the observation that when he visited Ali's Alley for the first time, he could barely find the place because it was in a neighborhood where it was kind of an industrial warehouse kind of area, and there were trucks and whatnot out in the street, and you know, nobody knew what was where, and there were really no signs for the place. And now, of course, that same area is known as Soho, and it's entirely different. It's completely gentrified, and it's retail, and it's like these neighborhoods. They start out, you know, they reach a point of neglect, and then artists discover them, and they become places where artists find spaces, and they find spaces fairly inexpensively. And then, oh, the light goes on in the retail, folks. Not just the light goes on with the realtors, and they take over a certain area. And that was the case with Soho. But during its time, Studio Rivby was a very important space in that area. And more importantly, during his time on this earth, Sam Rivers has been an extremely important musician. Sam gave me a little cheat sheet here, not that I necessarily needed it, but the list of musicians that Sam Rivers has performed with is incredible. And just to give you a range, let's see, how would I arrange to say that Sam Rivers has performed with everybody from B.B. King and Jimi Hendrix to Cecil Taylor. Okay, I think that's a pretty good range of people that he's played with. But Sam, you came out of Boston, right?
Right.
And during the time you were in Boston, were you able to develop the kind of things that you desired to musically?
Well, yes, I was. That was one of the reasons why I stayed in Boston, because a lot of good musicians were there. Jackie Byrd was there. We were all students at the time. Jackie Byrd and then G.G. Grice and Quincy Jones and quite a few other musicians were all there. So we were studying at the same time. Cecil Taylor was there too, but he was at a different. He was at New England
Conservatory, right? The other folks you mentioned.
Jackie Byrd and Quincy, they were at Schillinger, which changed very quickly.
Right.
So I was at Boston Conservatory with G.G. Grice and some other musicians. So it was a quite diverse scene there, because we were all familiar with what was happening in New York. But we just stayed there. I stayed there just to study, and then I got married and just stayed there. I had a very good job with this organization. Well, it wasn't an organization, really. It was just a couple of people, and they advertised to send us their lyrics, and we would put music to them and make a CD for it, which is make a record demo, which I did. I mean, they give me the lyrics, and I would just put some music to it. And I became quite adept at that. So and it was very good. I mean, it was a living anyway, and so that's one of the reasons why I stayed there. Besides, I was working all the time with different musicians that came in from New York. They came in, they wanted somebody to play with them, and so they already recommended me. And I just think about it over, years later. I think about why was I always, the guy that would be recommended to play with the musicians, because they had regular jobs and they didn't want me, intruding on their good gigs. So they made sure that that I had guys coming in from New York to play with, J.C. Higginbottom and musicians like that. I think of J.C. Higginbottom because he was one of the musicians I played with. Also Paul Gonzalez, I recorded with him.
At what point did you determine to migrate to New York, and what prompted that move?
When I was writing all these compositions, I had all these score papers, so I started writing compositions. And then that was the main reason, because I had Tony Williams was with me in a small group, which I was playing in Harvard Square every week.
That's when he was a teenager, right?
Yeah, he was 13, 14. He was very, very, very arrogant. I was the only musician he respected. Because he could play tempos, and I could play tempos, but no one else could play the tempos. So that was one of the main reasons. So he'd get on the stage with somebody else, and they say he would try to dominate the stage. Oh, I don't want to play that. Let's play this. And the guy, so with me, he was pretty cool. But then he went to New York with Jackie McLean. A very funny situation. I knew Jackie McLean. He had done invited me to dinner, because I already knew he wanted to take Tony Williams to New York, but I just let him sit there and sweat. You know how they asked me. He said, "Man, Tony's a very good musician." I said, "Yeah, we're working out. We work all the time, I guess." So finally, at dinner, I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "You really should take Tony with you." It took a lot off of it, so he didn't have to ask about it.
Oh, so you took the pressure off, Jay?
Yeah, I took the pressure off after dinner. And then so when Tony went to New York with Jackie McLean, he was performing with Dexter Gordon. I guess it was that play. What was it? Some play that was Dexter. Anyway,
The Connection.
Yeah, I think it was. And Philly Joe and Miles came down, so he called me the next day. He said, Philly Joe and Miles came down. I said, "Worst I ever played." Man, I was so embarrassed. And he said, Miles called up next day. "Yeah, man, I want you to join the band." So that was the way that was.
So what year did you come to New York?
I came to New York around 1964.
You came to New York in '64. Now the Tony Williams connection is interesting because some people aren't aware of it, but you yourself played with Miles for a minute. But it was interesting that you were amongst those saxophonists that played with Miles in between Train and Wayne Shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. I read something where you said that during the time you played with Miles, that it was interesting, but you had moved beyond what they were doing at the time.
Well, I was able to play with Miles, but it was a situation that I didn't know about until later. Miles had, and Art Blakey had already made the deal that Wayne Shorter was supposed to come with Miles when he got back off tour with Art Blakey. But, you know, no one told me that. You know? So, I mean, I went toured with Miles, I mean, around the States and to Japan. And when I came back, I mean, I didn't say anything about it, so they didn't tell me that they were going to change it, and Wayne was coming with Miles, and I was supposed to go with Art Blakey. So I went on and wrote with Andrew Hill, so I mean, nobody told me anything. That's what, it had already been set, you know, that Wayne was coming with Miles, they had already made that agreement. But nobody told me anything. That's why I just left with Andrew Hill, went out on the West Coast out there, and we performed out there, and then did some concerts with him. But then later on I found out that this was the situation, but no one mentioned it to me. It wasn't because I was too far advanced. I played with Dizzy for 4 years after I played with Taylor.
That's true.
You know, so I mean, I came up through the ranks. I mean, in the briar patch, so beat people up. I mean, that was throwing rabbit back in the briar patch. So I was pretty much.
But the fact is that when you made that first series of recordings for the Blue Note label.
That was all traditional jazz.
Well, but you know, when you listen to those recordings, you and Andrew Hill were a bit further advanced than what was coming out of Blue Note at that time.
Right, yeah, you're right there. But I came in outside. My first was Jackie Bryan, Future Swing Song, which was standards we'd been playing in Boston for years. I had some other music. I mean, to play for that particular date. And Alfred Lyons, he heard it, said, no, he canceled on it. So I said, well, I got other music, I mean, you know. So I went back and dusted off some stuff and brought it out there, you know, like that. And so that was a Future Swing Song thing,
but you were determined to play your originals.
Well, I had a lot of originals. That's the main reason why I moved to New York, because I had all these competitions for jazz orchestra. And there weren't, the musicians in Boston that could play, they were all busy all the time. So, I mean, you come to New York, I mean, there's a lot of good musicians that are not busy all the time, you know. And so, I mean, I was able to keep an orchestra together. And Steve Coleman was in the group, I mean, when I was in New York. But that was later on at the Tribeca. But that was the main reason why I moved to New York, because for the advantage of having all these musicians that were here, and so I could perform my music. We just started up in Harlem. I got at one of the schools, the Film School, and we performed up there. I mean, the deal was, I mean, you could perform, you could rehearse here. I mean, and so just give a concert for the students now and then. So that was a good situation. But I mean, you know, performing in the school is different. I mean, for musicians, I mean, you can't smoke, you couldn't drink or anything like that. So I said, well, I mean, you know, that's when I'm going to get, you know, it's only from like 7 to 9 or something like that. So I said, well, I mean, I'd like to find a space. I mean, it's why we would play all night long. Because I mean, I like getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I think of something going right to the piano, you know, like that. So that's the reason why I went downtown. We went looking for space. And it was fortunate that I found that I was having to run into Virginia Admiral, which is the mother of one of the actors, and so I mean she rented me the space down there, really big like this, and so I mean I just started rehearsing. Now that's what I'm particularly mainly interested in just a place to rehearse all night long. I wanted. Robert De Niro's mother, by the way, she was the one that rented me the place. She never told me that she was Robert De Niro, but she didn't brag about that. But he was famous, he was in, you know, and she was talking about how proud she was that I made the place, I mean, internationally famous.
So for those who didn't have the privilege and opportunity to visit Studio Ridley, describe what it looked like physically.
Well, it was, first it was 2 floors. It was a basement, which I started out in, you know. then I moved upstairs, which was more. My whole family lived there too. I mean, they came up in the theater. I mean, Monique likes to talk about that around the house. They came up living in the theater like that. So we came up in it, and so I just had it as pretty much as a rehearsal space. And then, I mean, like, this Newport Jazz Festival came in town, and you know, the guy that's running Newport, I mean, didn't like any of the modern music at all, so I mean, so I said, well, I mean.
That would be George Wein.
That would be George Wein. We came up together. We came up together, I mean, you know, from that you know, in Boston, I mean, he was always around. There's a joke about George Wein. He says his mother and father looked at him and said, "We bought him the best piano. We sent him to the best schools. Best music school. Now, why can't he play?" that was a big joke around the party. But my brother played with him all the time. But my brother played nice bass. It was a Dixieland kind of thing.
So you moved into this space as a place for your family, and also as a place where you could rehearse freely. At what point did you decide to have regular performance?
But that's when it started with when we started with I might as well do a county festival with George Wein.
Okay.
That's when it started like that. But it seemed like everything that sort of congealed together. I mean, came together because all these musicians were coming in at the same time from all over the country and some from Europe. I mean, like Braxton and George Lewis, they were coming out of Chicago, New Hall, yeah. And the St. Louis musicians like
Oliver Lake
and Blewett and J.D.
Perrin.
All these guys came in. They were coming in at the same time. You know, it was just everything just happened. You know, like it just happened to be. Everything was happening at the right time. You know, and so I was just very fortunate to be there. I mean, to just happen to be there because I mean, when the agents came from Europe, I mean, they came over to listen to. I mean, the groups and a lot of musicians got internationally known from this. I mean, you know, performing at Rigby and you know, and there were a few other spots. Studio We was there, and there were a few other venues like that, but there was a few at that time. Later on, Perry Robinson had one, and Julia Wilson had one, but they came later like that.
So when you put together this, let's say for lack of a better term, this alternate festival.
Yeah, well,
how many nights did you put together for that?
We rehearsed. No, we started. We had concerts every night.
Okay.
I was doing all the layout. I was doing all the advertising. I was asking the guys to play. You know, I mean, they didn't come to me. I went to them. You know, doing this thing like this, and eventually, I mean, I had some people connected with the Voice, and they were doing things. I mean, and so one day I got this phone call. It said, "This is the New York Council on the Arts. We hear you're doing a good thing. How can we help?"
Oh, so this was during during a time when the Arts Council actually came to you.
Came to me. They sent the guy down from.
Let's bring those days back.
Yeah, they sent people down from the council to fill out my form. They filled it out and everything. But it was just, you know, to play musicians. So anything came in the door was pretty much for expenses. Right. But I had money for the musicians, which was, of course, that was the main thing anyway. So if nobody showed up, I mean, because exhibited and exposed a lot of musicians that no one knew about. So some nights it would be hardly anyone there, you know. But the musicians could get paid anyway because, I mean, the council.
Because you had the grant.
Yeah, it was a grant like that.
So at that point, was this when you had the trio with Dave Howland and Barry Altschul?
Well, yeah, but that was kind of a strange thing too, because I mean, I had Cecil McBee, was working with Cecil McBee, and then he quit traveling, so I didn't have anybody. So all of a sudden, I mean, Dave showed up, you know. But as far as Barry was always there. He was just sitting there all the time. I was interviewing all the black musician drummers, you know. They come in and they were doing their thing. They was, you know, they didn't even feel like they wasn't listening. And so after a while, I mean, when Barry's the only one who was listening, I had to go with Barry, you know. Playing with me, you know. And that was it. The other drummers just solo in it. So that's the truth. I mean, you know. He was sitting there too, and I'm like, sitting there.
So you need somebody that would listen and have
Yeah, we gotta play together.
some degree of
you know?
sensitivity.
I mean, I want you to do your thing, of course. If a guy's in solo and I say, yeah, I want you to do the same thing you're doing now, I'm gonna play it softer. You know, that's it. Do the same thing, but you know, don't drown me out. You know.
Right.
But that was it. So Barry was there. He was listening. That was the main reason why I had Barry, because he was the only one who would play with me. You know? Out of all the drummers, man. A lot of drummers were around too, you know.
Oh yeah. So now that was the trio. When did you start performing at Rivby with the big band?
Pretty much at the same time, but see, now that was another thing. Now Barry wasn't a good reader, so Warren Smith. Warren Smith, Warren Smith he's been playing these shows so long that he lost some of his soul, you know what I mean? You can't get down in the pit and stay there forever, man, because you're coming out of the pit, boy. I mean, you lose something, I mean. Because, I mean, when you sit in the pit, you don't even listen anymore, you know? After about the first 2 weeks, I mean, you just sit there, I mean, you just daydreaming. You know, you're not reading newspapers. So it's not good. There's one guy, one talker said, man, he said, I really hate it, but the money's so good I can't leave. But I really, really hate it, you know, and so he gets drunk every night, you know. So that was it.
So the orchestra, did that become a regular situation for you, or was that more of a rehearsal band, or what?
Well, no, it was a rehearsal thing, but we rehearsed, I mean, pretty much every week or so. But then on the other hand, I mean, the guy that was good soloists went to good readers. Except for Steve Coleman, he's an all-around musician, but a lot of the guys that came in to play these solos, I mean, they couldn't really, you know, they went to good readers, I mean, which is pretty much the same thing as it is now. I mean, like, but so the guy that couldn't write good solos could be. But nowadays, I mean, it's all around. Because where I am in Orlando, I mean, the musicians there are all teachers, and they're all good readers too. So they're professors of music.
So the orchestra did become a place for younger musicians. Shall we say younger at the time? Younger musicians like Steve Coleman.
Yeah, right.
Found certain opportunities.
Yeah, Steve Coleman, Chico Freeman, you know.
Right.
Chicago musicians.
I remember. You might not remember this particular gig, but I remember I saw the orchestra. It was in the winter. You came to my school. This is after I graduated. You came out to Ohio and played at Kent State University.
Yeah, I remember that.
My alma mater, yeah. And I remember it was cold, and you brought all these guys in.
It was crowded too.
Right. Yeah, right. Big crowd. Right. But you guys look like some kind of space invaders or something, getting off the bus and all the cold and snow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But the orchestra, you kept that together for how long?
As long as I stayed in New York. I mean, we never did disintegrate or anything like that. It stayed together. Because I mean, I was always writing music, and so I took it interesting.
But you know, it was. You mentioned Dizzy,
Mm-hmm.
and we mentioned that this vast universe of musicians that you've played with.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell you the truth. I remember going to see Dizzy. I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was a jazz showcase in Chicago. We were going to see Dizzy, and of course, you know, we tend to get certain impressions in our minds of certain musicians and what they're about, and we have certain expectations.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember going to see Dizzy, and I looked up and said, wait a minute, that can't be Sam Rivers on the saxophone with Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I mean, Ed Sherry was in my office with Rivby,
Mm-hmm.
and we were playing down at a place down the street from Vanguard, that place is sold now. Sweet Basil, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing the Sweet Basils. I mean, we had a kind of weekend kind of thing during the week something. When Ed Sherry says it was Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Sherry says, well, I got to put the band in because I'm going with Dizzy. I said, yeah. He said, Dizzy's forming a new band. He said, okay. So give me Dizzy's number. So I called up Dizzy. I said, hey, Dizzy, Merry Christmas. I said, if you need a tenor player, I'm available. He said, what's your number? Just like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I was surprised. But anyway, yeah, he called me. He was in the county, called me the next couple of days and said, we have a rehearsal. And that's the way that happened, like that. And so, I mean, like musicians like they was, you know, that was telling me, this guy was telling him, Samuel was Dizzy Gillespie, he ain't gonna last that long. You know? Yeah, what are you talking about? They say I'll keep up with that stuff like that. So it was interesting, you know? Because, I mean, I learned early in my career that I mean, like musicians, a lot of musicians, I mean, play the same music every night, they play the same tunes, you know? Well, that's okay, because I learned how to really, well, for me, I mean, every night, since I just knew the changes and I wasn't memorizing a solo, every night would be different for me playing solos like that. I know that Miles and Dizzy, sometimes they would resort to playing, I mean, when they played the night before. Miles did that one time and I played with him, so he stopped that crap, you know. I played the stool with his solo with him, so he didn't do that anymore. Like. So
well, how long did you play with Dizzy?
About 4 years.
4 years?
Oh, yeah, all around the world, Australia and other places. But every place I went with Dizzy, I mean, I had already pretty much been there myself with my trio like that. And, because Dizzy had, he had pretty much, his name had disintegrated in Europe because they would call him a caricature of himself. That's what they were talking about, you know. And I remember that Chick Corea, when I went with Dizzy, and Chick Corea, when everybody was applauding Diz for that, you know. We played a concert with Chick Corea and Kenny G and some other people on the same bill. The piano player sings sort of thing from New Orleans. You know what I'm talking about? Harry Connick. Yeah, he was just by himself, man. I said, damn, that cat can really play. He was playing, you know, doing all this stuff. He's an excellent pianist, and I guess he's a better pianist than he is a voice, but I mean,
but the voice pays the bill.
The voice pays the bill, right? But he's an excellent musician. Yeah. Kenny G is an excellent musician too, but you know, Cat stooped to conquer, you know, I mean, that's I guess that's it too, but I didn't backstage that.
Now, at what point did you move to Orlando, Florida, and what made you move to Orlando?
I was traveling around with Dizzy. I really hate the cold, man. I came up in Chicago. I mean, my mother was in politics. I mean, we were talking, detesting the poll tax and all that, walking around City Hall. And I'm a little boy, 6 years old, and snowbanks all the way around. I'm looking up the snowbanks. I said, when I get big, I'm getting out of here. Chicago is one cold place, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but then you moved to Boston.
I moved to Boston. It's also bad, you know. Finally, I mean, then I moved from New York to Boston to New York. And when I was in New York was one of the cold, I remember cold days in New York. I remember below zero. I mean, one of my daughters was stuck at the airport. I mean, it was like zero. Now I would think about going out, Daddy, come get me. Oh, wow. Man, I really hated it. But I went out there, but now, I mean, I was traveling around with Dizzy. And we did a concert in Orlando, Florida. And so the guy, one of the musicians that came out said, there's a lot of musicians here, and they would love to play with you. And we would be the orchestra for you, you know, if you come down. I said, okay. And so I went down there, and I moved down there because I wanted to get out of New York here, Boston, no, New York. And so when I went there, I mean, for the first rehearsal, everybody was sitting there waiting on me. Damn, I never had that happen before. The whole band sitting right there, you know. And I brought out some of my difficult charts, and they played it down the first time. Man, I was really impressed. I said, this is it. I'm moving down here. That was it. That's the way it happened. You know?
Well, I read somewhere where when you moved to Orlando, you sent out a notice or you put around notices that you wanted to have, you invited musicians to come to a rehearsal.
No, they took care of that.
Oh,
they
do
now. I mean, I've been there playing the same musician for 10 years or more. I just call one of them and say, I'm going to have them do it. They know now Wednesday, I mean, you know, if there's too many guys that are working, because they're all working musicians. A lot of them work at Disney, most of them are teachers and professors at the university there, so they're there, but they play with me because, I mean, that's only decent music to get a chance to play, so, you know, playing at Disney is, I mean, it's one of those things. One of those things like the guy tells you, I don't care what you sound like, I just want you to look good. You know, that's the kind of thing you go through at Disney, you know.
That's pretty much the same attitude that you found with musicians here who were working in pits.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they're actually musicians, but I mean, they're playing the same thing every night,
right.
You know. And so, I mean, that's hard for a musician that wants to create, playing the same thing. I mean, it takes your soul. I mean, it really does. I mean, you have to fight alone. you stay down there if you stay in the pit for 2 or 3 years, man, I mean, you're in real trouble when you get ready to come out to try to play, you know, because it's such a downer. But the money's, you know, it's so good, you know.
But obviously, there was a thirst amongst a certain cadre of musicians down there to play some truly interesting music, truly intriguing and challenging music.
That's right.
Right. So
Yeah,
so you obviously found a certain eagerness.
Yeah, they invited me. I mean, I didn't mention the fact. I mean, I said I'm moving out of New York. I can't stand it any longer. And so they, because I had almost to go. I could have gone to Seattle, but it rains all the time. I could have gone to Frisco, and it's kind of dreary there too. And I'm worried about earthquakes all the time. when I go to Frisco, man, it's really something. I mean, getting in one of these high-rise hotels up on it, I can't sleep. Oh, they had some documentaries on Frisco. They had given up any kind of idea of any kind of escape path. You know? they don't even try that anymore. They don't even talk about it. It's impossible. When Frisco goes, I mean, it's going to be worse than New Orleans. You know, like, I didn't know about New Orleans, and now I'm worried about whenever I go to New Orleans. I'm worried about it because I don't swim that well. So,
and who would swim in that water anyway?
That's right. Hi, it's my daughter. My daughter Monique. She takes care of everything. And Ricky. Her fiance.
So you've been in Orlando for a number of years now, and have you had opportunities to record your music?
Oh yeah, that's all I do is record. I mean, a couple of musicians have studios, and you know we rehearse and record at the same time. They have pretty much all our music recorded, and so you know it's a very good situation there. I'm releasing something with Michael Scooter, whatever it is, those three.
Mosaic,
yeah. It's coming out. Mosaic now. Everybody in the audience is a soloist. So that's what I write for soloists. I mean, background soloists is pretty much what I do. I mean, I'm working on symphonies, which is different, you know. But I have about 10 symphonies started. I mean, it's just the thing about you say, how do you do that? You know. But I mean, over the years when I've been writing, I've found that once you write about about 30 or 40 bars or something, it gets its own life, you know. So you know, it sort of has a situation where you mean you just you don't have to worry about imitation and anything like that, because of certain harmonic variations. I mean, and they sort of they just lead themselves. I mean, you just write down what's you know, like that. It's hard to explain, but it's like it's like a child. I mean, like you just have to watch it grow. You know, you don't do anything to make a child grow. You just watch it grow. I mean, that's the same way as the music.
You don't have to water a child. Right?
Yeah, it's, after you have to breastfeed it for a while. I mean, and then after that, then it's it's pretty much on its own. You watch it. Oh, he fell down. Well, get up.
Can we have the house lights up a little bit, please?
Why?
I want to see if we can get the house lights up.
Get some
Let's
questions.
see if any of you folks have any questions.
Yeah, run them.
I guess for right now, all I can see is the first 2 rows. So anybody in the first 2 rows got any questions for Sam Rivers?
I can see everybody.
Yes, sir.
How many seasons was Whitby open to the public for concerts? And did it close because of real estate reasons or because you were on the road with Dizzy so much?
Well, we were there for about 1 decade, you know, from '69 to pretty much '79. And after that, I mean, well, that was one of the reasons. It wasn't really because of it wasn't because of the real estate reasons, but it was you know, like Mapplethorpe was on the 4th floor, and there was a woman on the 2nd floor, that wrote one of the first books about sexual harassment in the office, and she'd never worked in the office. She was a lesbian. When she wrote this thing, I was looking at her one time on TV. He said, "What the hell is that?" all painted up and stuff. She never, she was the first one that started the sexual harassment in the office and was never worked in the office. So she got famous from that. When Maple's office was on the top floor, not the fourth, top floor, fourth floor, wasn't that right? He was on the fourth floor. And when I did a lot of photographs with my clothes on, so I mean that's why they weren't but the main reason why we left because they wouldn't sell me the floor. Everybody else owned their floors. They wanted to keep the first floor, available for in case something like that. So I never got it. That's the one reason I moved, because they wouldn't sell it to me. So I gave up and just moved out. And all my kids, they were happy. My son had already left. He went back to Boston and was studying in medicine. He's a doctor now in Boston, Peterborough, Brigham, I think. But the others, when we moved to Jersey, got an household there. And that was another thing, an incidental thing here I would point out here. I used to read about this white flight from New York and everything. And because of the situation, the only reason why the people moved from New York was because it was cheaper in Jersey then. Right. It was really cheaper. I was paying like $3,000 a month down at Real B. I moved to Jersey and I bought a house for $50,000 with land and everything, and paying $300 a month. You know, and that's why people moved to Jersey.
$3,000 a month, and that was in the 80s. And that was in the 80s, $3,000 a month. Man.
Yeah, in the 80s. And yeah, so when I moved to Jersey, it was like I bought the house for $59,000 and about almost half an acre of land, and then it was about $300 a month. So I said, well, all these people that moved to Jersey, it wasn't about no white flight from Mexico. It was cheaper out there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Judy.
Is there anybody that you haven't worked with that you'd like to?
Well, I didn't work with Coleman, that's about it. Only one. No one else. I always call on it up and say, man, call me because you messed my list up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say something. I was fortunate enough, Sam, to be part of the RISD for probably, I don't know, a long time, 72 to 74, like that. And I just want to tell everybody that it was such a vibrant place to be. And Beatrice would have this soup going, and all the cats would come down, and we would rehearse and play. And when rehearsal was over, the public would come in and we'd start doing concerts downstairs. And I had finished a master's program at Hunter College, and not to put down anything there, but I think I learned more with Sam just being there and doing it than all that education that I had. So I just want to say thank you, Sam.
It's my pleasure. I gained a lot of them too.
Same here. Same time period, pretty much. I was a college kid in the Midwest, and I'd come home to Connecticut and get down to Bond Street, and you were right in the front, and there'd be a couple of kids whizzing around,
Yeah.
and then
My daughter,
Monique,
there.
into the basement. It was a real, I've been to other jazz clubs here and there in Chicago and New York too, and there were waitresses asking for minimum drinks and all that stuff. And here was a place, it's just your house basically, and down in your basement.
Yeah. Well, we moved up on the main floor.
I think I missed that.
You missed that, yeah.
I did too.
Basement.
College,
We put
72.
that on the main
we were
floor, on the basement,
downstairs.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
right.
we moved up. After we had to do some remodeling.
Another thing I remember was
We were living on the first floor.
regularly
Right.
there'd be
Yeah, right.
We made some
subway
lofts.
rumbling, and it added to the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, I think we have time for two more. Yes, sir. You and then you up behind.
I just wanted to.
No, hold on. In front and then behind.
Yeah, I think I knew about most musicians that you talked about in Tribeca. I was intrigued by what's the story of when you played with Jimi Hendrix?
Pardon?
What's the story of when you played with Jimi Hendrix? In what context did you play with Hendrix?
Oh, yes. I was playing, I was living over in, I was still living up, it was around 1968 or 69, something like that. And some guy says, Jimi Hendrix is coming down to play, he was coming on down to play with him. It was on 14th Street, across the street from the artist there. What's the artist? The bottles and stuff? Who painted the Coca-Cola bottles? Warhol, yeah, I was living across the street. I was living across the street from Warhol and on the other side of Broadway. I was on this side of Broadway, 14th Street, down to 16th. So I mean, so we came down and we jammed for pretty much all night long, you know, and we recorded at the same time, you know, and then I mean, he invited me. After that, he invited me down to his house down at Woodstock. I mean, I went down there with me and my wife B. And another incident is so some of the bebop musicians, prominent bebop musicians, I mean, I'm not going to call their name. They heard that I was jamming with Jimi Hendrix, and so they set up and went and rented a studio and invited Jimmy to come down and play. And he went down there, but nothing happened because they were bebop musicians. And bebop musicians, I mean, they don't know how to play the blues musicians. They didn't understand that Jimi Hendrix couldn't read music, they didn't know anything about, really didn't know about music, was all from his head, you know. But I played a musician like that. I played with T-Bone Walker and John Lee Hooker, you know. A lot of other musicians that, you know, like that really, they were playing blues, but were playing this style of blues. So, I mean, I could hear it and I could fit with them. And so that was the difference, but what they tried to do, it didn't work. They wanted to play bebop blues. They didn't play bebop blues. Hey, Barry, how you doing?
Yes, sir. Last question.
Yeah, honestly, I just wanted to toss some names out because it seems like you played with everybody. Did your path cross with Eric Dolphy at any point?
No, but he came to some rehearsals when I was playing with in Boston with I forget his name. He was had Boston. He died recently in Boston. That was
George Russell?
Charlie Mariano?
George Russell?
No, not Charlie, the trumpet player.
Joe Gordon?
Not Joe Gordon, he was in the band too, but the director of the band at the downstate. Herb Pomeroy, yeah, it was Herb Pomeroy's band, and so yeah, he came out and listened to that band. Very awesome. I was just talking about you, man. Yeah, really good. I guess it was good. Not about how you sitting around listening to me interview audition other guys, other drummers, and he's sitting there.
Well, Sam, thank you so much. And I want to give Sam an opportunity to get ready for the performance. The concert will start at 8:30. And
Steve Coleman will sit in with me too, because I just got out of the hospital, by the way, you know. And I'm probably going to have to go back in because I some blood in my urine, whatever that means.
And we're going to take a break so Sam can rest a minute before the concert. Concert will begin at 8:30, and we're going to ask you to please exit the theater so they can get set up for the concert. And please be sure.
We're going to do something called iris. Iris is the color of the eyes, some color. Also, it's the messenger to God is the rainbow. She brings the rainbow on all the different myriad of colors. So, Some of the musicians that can't help just drop by with the horns. They didn't know that I was playing. They just happened to carry their horns around and everybody go like I carry my gun, you know. So it's David's on piano from Cuba. And Steve Coleman on alto saxophone and Craig Harris on trombone and Carl Hamilton on drums and Doug Mathews on, so I say David Mathews. Doug Mathews on bass. David Mathews. So we're gonna play something called. We're gonna play something called. In B flat. You know, we know all the music. I mean, you know, like it's one language, you dig? We go like this. just met. I mean, you know, I was out in the corner, the guy was standing there, hey man, let's go play. So yeah, that's a good idea. Close the evening with something called Close the Evening.
That's great.
Hey, well, Doug's he's gonna play the bass guitar. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays bass clarinet. Brian plays violin and cello. And he plays all these instruments here. He's got a regular band at home. His wife is Hoyt Roy. She plays in the symphony. She's like traveling all over the world and stuff.
Where is she? I heard she was here.
Yeah, where is she? She's here somewhere. Monique, you want to say something? My daughter Monique. I wouldn't be here with her because I was laying on my back. Come on down there, girl. Hurry up. She used to be hitting the glass ceiling at UPS. Then I got sick, so she retired and came down here and found a fiance, and so she's hanging out. Okay, say something, darling.
I want to thank everyone for coming, and especially for BMCC Tribeca for inviting us. Thank you very much. Yes, Willie Jenkins is over in the corner here. And of course, just stay tuned with samrivers.com and for all his CDs. We're about to blow the top off with a lot of his old memorabilia from Studio Rigby will be available.
And Mosaic is coming out. Where's my man?
We shouldn't be telling that right now. That might be in the papers. I haven't finished that deal yet, but yes, we're
Well,
trying to.
Michael, where are you, Michael? He's here.
Is he here?
Yeah, Michael here. Go down and say something,
Michael, I'm so sorry. It's still on my desk, but it's coming to you. Actually, it's in the hotel.
Yeah, where's Michael?
But seriously, he's here.
There you go. Come on down and say something, Michael. Michael's a star. He was starring in with Dexter Gordon. He's a movie star too. He's a movie star. He was with Dexter Gordon.
I've known this guy since he was 44.
When I was a kid. Yeah, it's Michael Sony. He's been doing something on Mosaic, and it's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah,
Soon I finish getting the music. I mean, not the music, the liner notes.
Right. And one of your great drummers,
One of the great drummers.
Barry Elchel.
Very awesome. Come on down, Barry.
This man, Barry Alto, the greatest drummer.
I was talking about Barry. I mean, Barry's coming out of the studio. I was interviewing all the drummers, and Barry's just sitting there interviewing all these drummers, man. Nobody, it was all stopping. I wasn't even listening. I said, well, damn. But I mean, Barry was the only guy that played with me. You know, he was the only drummer.
I'm gonna say something.
Say something. Say something.
You know, back in the day, Sam was very brave in a certain way. It was a time politically where he went through a lot of changes by hiring Dave Holland and myself, two white guys, to one of the spokesmen of the black community. And all kinds of guys were trying to get me off the gig. Everybody was calling Sam and said, let me come and play, let me come and play. Sam and I were very honest with each other. He used to tell me that all the time. So I said, if they play better, the music better than me, take them. And I used to go and listen to them. And I had the gig. I can do that.
So finally, I mean, I had no choice. Coleman.